Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you all attending in person and viewing online to the Special Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, September 17th. It is 6:30 p.m. And at this time, I'd like to ask for a roll call, please.
Finkler.
Here.
Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive.
Present.
Reed.
Here.
Relke.
Here.
Rostad.
Here.
I acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed according to law.
Thank you. At this time, I would look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll move to approve tonight's agenda.
Motive will second.
I have a motion from Alder Finkler and a second from Alder Motive. Is there any discussion? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have approved the agenda. And is there anyone signed up for public comment at this time?
There is not.
Okay, thank you. First item for new business is to review Resolution 4-24 to create tax incremental financing District Number 7 as recommended by the Plan Commission. And I believe we have Sonia, I'm not even going to try your last name, I'm sorry. Come on up and.
Good evening. Sonia Kriesel with Vandewall and Associates, and my colleague, Principal Planner Scott Harrington, is with us on Zoom as well to contribute to the conversation and help with questions as needed.
Oh, there it is. There.
Don't move. Don't breathe. Why is it blinking? Do you need me to
It's trying to reconnect to everything else.
Should I proceed? Oh,
No.
no. It didn't work.
There we go. There should be good. Thank you.
Yeah. Would you like me to restate anything for recording?
wouldn't mind,
purpose?
yeah.
Okay. Sonia Kriesel with Vandewall and Associates, and also with me is Scott Harrington, Principal Planner, who can help us with this discussion and questions as needed. We are here to help discuss the potential creation of TID number 7. And we have been through a number of steps in the process, including our organizational joint review board meeting and a plan commission public hearing. We are at the point in the process where the city council may choose to adopt the TIF district, and one of the conclusionary steps would be joint review board adoption meeting as well. I know that this has been discussed a number of times with the city. So the slides that I have prepared are relatively high level. We can go into detail as needed, but I think we'll start with just an overview and a refresher of the proposed TID boundaries and the financial feasibility plan. So here is a look at the process, just to remind you again where we are. I covered some of this back in August. We had that organizational meeting with the Joint Review Board. Recommendation for approval unanimously from the Plan Commission at the August 8th public hearing. Council adoption here, September 17th. The date is an important point to point out for you. September 30th is a sort of DOR, deadline, Department of Revenue, for creation of a TID, and the trigger for that creation is the council's action in order to use 2024 as the base year for the TID. It is okay that the JRB adoption occurs after that September 30th deadline, so we have that already scheduled with them for October 1st. We can go ahead. One of the first things that any community must do when looking at creating a new TID is reviewing the 12% test. The base value of all TIF districts in the city cannot exceed 12% of the overall city's equalized value. So in Columbus, you have 3 existing TIDs. Adding this one will still keep you well below that limit and allow for opportunity for additional TID creation in the future if that were of interest. You are at 5%. Proposed TID boundary here is driven by potential economic development projects, sort of an infill and redevelopment nature, and the boundary spans from Tower Drive on the north with the city-owned property coming to the south through to include the 1400 Park Avenue site. And then we kind of jump across the street right-of-way and include the City of Columbus golf course. Continuing to move south, there are a couple of residential connector parcels before joining the Kestrel Ridge golf course. And then again, coming into some vacant, more greenfield development type areas where the potential phase 3 for Kestrel Ridge subdivision could occur. Across the highway, another vacant parcel there, number 19, that would lend itself as well to development potential in the future. And I'll just kind of explain a little bit further what Scott calls kind of a squashed bug approach to this boundary and why it is sort of showing up that way. There is a limit when creating a mixed-use TIF district that no more than 35% of the land area may be allocated to newly platted residential. You do have a number of different residential proposals in here that would be platted as residential subdivisions. So we are remaining cognizant of that and creating the boundary based on that. A TID boundary must be contiguous. Only whole parcels may be included. You cannot include just a portion of a parcel. And they must, I mentioned contiguous, but could be connected by right-of-way and can meet kitty corner. I think there's one instance of that in this boundary. You can continue on to the next slide. There is another proportionality test. I mentioned the 35% newly platted residential limitation, and also at least 50% of the area by real property in the district must be suitable for mixed-use development. This doesn't mean zoned for or planned for. The statute specifically says suitable for, and that is land use other than residential or institutional. So again, that is one of the driving factors for the boundary as proposed. And in particular, the golf courses can help to meet this 50% test. Commercial operation of a golf course, which I believe in both instances is the case here, qualifies for that, and the JRB and Plan Commission were supportive of that as well. A mixed-use TIF district has a 20-year life and then 15-year expenditure period. So the following slides after this kind of get into a little bit more detail, but because you may have discussed this, just wanted to put this all on one slide just as some really quick highlights. One of the things that we must do when creating a TID is review its financial feasibility. And we go through an exercise to do that. This is hypothetical, but based on specific development assumptions. Things can change, value may increase or decrease, but as long as you are operating within the bounds of sort of authorized project costs that are within the TID, that is what is required in order to get through the creation and this an early financial feasibility test. So the development value assumption is a projection of potential new value that may occur within the TIF district, and that is based on applying, for example, development value or assessed value to specific land use types that may occur in these parcels. So taking Kestrel Ridge Phase 3 subdivision, for example, and applying an assessed value to a new single-family lot and what that would assess at, and projecting that value for that development. Also applying a time frame so that we can know when to expect the revenue from that new value to come online. The second bullet point is then the taxes paid on the new development, so the revenue that's coming into the TIF district. And the projection based on that assumption is $15.8 million. Project costs are described on a further slide in more detail, but in general, we have a total project cost for proposed TID 7 of 15.7, meeting that kind of just on the face value financial feasibility, we're spending less than we're bringing in. There is a cash flow that anticipates borrowing $1.3 million for infrastructure costs, and the cash flow takes into consideration the borrowing timing of that, interest rates, and at the end of the cash flow analysis, at the end of the TID's life, at the end of 20 years, there's a positive fund balance. So that is what the TID must find in this financial feasibility test. We can look quickly at some of the more detailed slides. This is the value assumptions, $68 million, and kind of showing you how that is allocated with residential projections over time. And the next slide translates this, showing a calculation to arrive at the new revenue to be received from that development. I'll point out a relatively conservative approach here, working with your finance advisor, Ellers, and using a flat tax rate as well as keeping inflation flat. So we're not assuming a 2 or 3% inflation on that value every year, trying to keep this a little bit more of a conservative estimate. The project costs here have been specifically developed with staff and your city engineer. A TID must specifically list the projects that would be potentially funded by the TIF district. Dollars can change and move between the expected projects, but overall the total level of spending is what we're looking at. And anything within the half-mile boundary must be specifically approved by the Joint Review Board. And so we've identified where projects within a half a mile of the TID boundary might occur. So you have 2 priority projects listed as A and B that totals the 1.3 million in this analysis. And that includes removing the culvert stormwater project in Fireman's Park, as well as the primary electrical overhead bury. The next projects that are listed are shown as contingent, and that allows some flexibility within this TID plan. They're not specifically included in the cash flow. The idea is that if value assumptions perform better than this one example and there's additional funds available, you may spend on these contingent funds without having to do a project plan amendment. Besides project costs and infrastructure, there are a couple of other categories, including development incentives, which are expected to be in the form of pay-go, primarily assistance, as well as finance and interest charges and administrative and professional costs. This map is included in the draft project plan and shows the locations of those priority projects and contingent expenses. And again, the cash flow, again, working with Ellers, putting all of these things together with a positive cash balance at the end. This just sort of recaps where we are in the process. I won't go over it again, but just wanted to provide a high-level overview and happy to assist with questions along with Scott.
Alderman Moda?
I did have one question regarding the donation to TID 6. Reading through this, it sounds like that's standard practice, but do we know that we need it, and is it for sure going to happen, and why is it in there?
Yeah, it doesn't require you to pursue that donation, but I think I'll let Scott provide a little bit more of a comprehensive response on that.
Yeah, I had a hard time hearing the question. Can somebody repeat that?
Scott, I'll go ahead and repeat. The question was about the donation to District 6 and what the benefit of showing that is. How realistic is that to happen, and is it something that we need to contemplate?
Yeah, we primarily included it there just to get it in the plan, to give you the option should that be something that you want to do. And you can see from the expense table, if you want to kind of roll back to that, frankly, it's a fairly nominal amount. But as Sonia indicated, you have the ability to kind of adjust funds between line items. And so it's just there to kind of keep the option open. If we didn't address it at all, then you wouldn't have the option. So that's why we did it. And if you look in the more detailed cash flow analysis, it comes fairly late in the life of the district when surplus funds might be available. Otherwise, the district runs a pretty tight year to year. There's not a lot of surplus funds left until you get much later into the life of the district.
Thank you.
I'll just add to what Scott said in that in another community, these are put together as Sonia referenced very conservatively. If there is great success and we see a lot of growth and development as a result of this, that contribution could be significant and something that could greatly assist the downtown where District 6 is. So I think that's kind of the benefit of keeping it in.
Alder Lawson?
Yeah, so I think I heard you say that there was a 0% inflation used to calculate the tax increment collection. Is that also the case for the expenditures?
We did not, so the project plan lists everything in 2024 dollars and allows for project costs to go up as they do with time. The borrowing, the cash flow does anticipate, the percentage rate for covering the loan principal and interest.
And then what is the current, what's the impact to the individual homeowners that are included into this TIF?
I'll start with that. Scott, and chime in if you'd like, but including a property in a TIF district does nothing to change it at all. It does not require anybody to do anything, and the taxes paid continue to be the same amount for a single-family residence, for example, or any property owner within the district. It doesn't change the assessed value, but it opens an opportunity for potential economic development programs like we've discussed.
Yeah, we typically don't like to include a lot of single-family residential in a TIF. The ones that were included here were, basically those needed to maintain contiguity because the key project areas of Tower Drive and along the highway and then down to the golf course development were pretty spread out. So we needed to include some intervening parcels to maintain that contiguity, and so a few houses were thrown in there, but as Sonia indicated, there's no impact on them whatsoever.
Does anybody else have any other questions at this time? Is everybody comfortable moving this forward for a vote? Okay. I'd like to thank you both for being with us this evening.
Thank you so much for your time.
Next item on the agenda is to review Resolution 5-24, exempting the municipality from paying Columbia County Library Tax 2025. And Matt, I'll let you take that one.
It's fine. This is a standard process that, as we have a library, there's an exemption from us paying the Columbia County tax since we support our own library. If we did not have a library, we would pay this tax to the county to support our nearest library within the county system.
Does anybody have any questions? Everybody comfortable moving that one forward? Okay, thank you. And then next, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Motive.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned.
You. Welcome to everybody to tonight's regular Common Council meeting, and also to those that are watching on cable channel. And with that, could we have roll call, please?
Finkler.
Here.
Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive.
Present.
Reed.
Here.
Relke.
Here.
Rostad.
Here.
If you would join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I acknowledge this meeting was also posted and noticed according to law.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Motive will make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Motif, a second by Alder Rested to approve tonight's agenda. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda approved. Public comment, anybody signed up? No? Okay. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda, and that would be the Council and Committee of the Whole minutes of September 3rd of 2024, the mayoral appointments to boards, committees, and commissions, and then street closing application for the Columbus Fire Department open house on October 6th of 2024.
Alder Rolke will move to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rolke, a second by Alder Finkler to approve tonight's consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next on the agenda is the ordinance 796 -24, which is to repeal and recreate Chapter 26 of the Cable Communications. I would look for a motion to, at this point, to suspend the rules.
Alder Rolke will move to suspend the rules on ordinance 796-24, repeal and recreate Chapter 26 of Cable Communications.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rolke and a second by Alder Finkler to suspend the rules. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, I would look for a motion to waive the readings under the City of Columbus Ordinance, Section 246.
I'll move to waive the readings under City of Columbus Ordinance Section 2-46.
Motive will second.
Motion by Alder Finkler, a second by Alder Motif to waive the readings. Any discussion? Trina, you have your light on. Is that, well, that's fine. Okay. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Then next would be to approve the ordinance 796-24 to repeal and recreate Chapter 26 of the Cable Commission.
I'll move to approve ordinance 796-24 to repeal and recreate Chapter 26 of the Cable Communications.
Alder Rolke will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Rolke. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to new business, and that would be to just get caught up here. Approve the purchase of the Felling tilt deck trailer requested by DPW and which is in the budget.
I'll move to approve the purchase of the Felling tilt truck trailer and then
It's the mid-state equipment.
for the
bid.
mid-state, for the price of $15,445.
Alder Lawson will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Lawson to approve purchasing the Felling tilt deck trailer. Any further discussion on this item? Yeah. Roll call, please.
Lawson.
Aye.
Rostad.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Finkler.
Aye.
Relke.
Aye.
Motive.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, next on the agenda is consider and take action on Resolution 4-24 to create the tax incremental financing district number 7 as recommended by the Plan Commission.
Alder Motive will make a motion to approve Resolution 4.24 to create tax incremental financing district number 7.
Alder Rolke will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Motive and a second by Alder Rolke. Any further discussion on this item? Alder Reed.
Oh, thank you. Yes. So I just feel uncomfortable with voting on this TID district at this time. It's not that I saw anything wrong in the presented plan. It's that I feel like this TID district was a seed of an idea a month ago that was briefly talked about and then talked about a little bit again 2 weeks later. But to have just received a finalized plan, to have just had a presentation to the public, I feel like I haven't had enough time to deeply review it. And certainly no one in the public has had enough time to be able to find out, read, and inform any of us. I think we should have, been a little more forthcoming with our constituents.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Resolution passed. Next on the agenda is to consider and take action on Resolution 5-24, exempting the municipality from paying Columbia County library tax in 2025.
I'll move to approve Resolution 5-24 exempting the municipality from paying Columbia County library tax in 2025.
Reed will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, a second by Alder Reed. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 524 is passed. Next is to take action on the claims in the amount of $346,386.77.
Motive will make a motion to approve the claims in the amount of $346,386.77.
Alder Lawson will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Motive, a second by Alder Lawson to pay the claims. Any further discussion on these? Hearing none, roll call.
Finkler.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Motive.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Relke.
Aye.
Rosted.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Reports?
I know we've been experiencing some shorter meetings. I expect that to come to a grinding halt on October 1st. We'll have in-depth budget discussions in regards to both the capital improvement plan and the operating budget. Staff and specifically Crystal Larson been doing a great deal of work in preparing those documents and kind of getting me up to speed on everything going through the budget the first time. So we'll try and make that an efficient process, but also want to allow for enough time for you to discuss and get any questions that you have answered during that time. Also looking forward to attending the International City County Management Association Annual Conference that starts on Saturday. So I'll be there from Saturday through Wednesday, and then returning to the office. So looking forward to that experience. First time attending that event, and looking forward to seeing how other cities, counties, governmental entities are handling things throughout the country. So That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I would like to extend our sympathy and prayers to the family of the woman who passed away due to the house fire, as well as our thanks and prayers to our fire department and police department responding to the call. And then this past Saturday, the Rotary Club and Tourism Commission had a ribbon cutting ceremony for the kayak rental unit. Many thanks to Libby Gilbertson of the Rotary Club for spearheading this effort. And there were some people, general public, that showed up that looking forward to using the kayak rental. So with that, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Alder Finkler, a second by Alder Rossed to adjourn. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Does anybody need a break, or can we roll right through? All right. I'd like to welcome you all back to the Committee of the Whole. It is Tuesday, September 17th, and it is 7:01 p.m. And at this time, if I could have a roll call, please, Susan.
Finkler.
Here.
Hammer.
Here.
Lawson. Here. Motive.
Present.
Reed.
Here.
Relke.
Here.
Rosted.
Here.
I acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed according to law.
Thank you. At this time, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
Alder Lawson will move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Alder Lawson and a second from Alder Finkler. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved, thank you. Included in tonight's packet, you'll find department reports for file for the fire department from July and August of 2024, the library from August of 2024, and the police from August of 2024. And do we have anybody signed up for public comment?
We do not.
Okay. In that case, the first item for new business is discussion regarding a vehicle lease program with Enterprise. Matt?
Yeah, so we've been, I think I'm the third administrator that's been in discussions with Enterprise about this program, and thanks to work by our utility, public works, police, and fire staff, we were able to create a master fleet list and submit that to Enterprise. They've done some analysis and looked at how their program would fit into our fleet. This isn't a full fleet look. This is primarily non-CDL vehicles. And I want to preface this by this is an exercise in showing our work. I can't tell you that this is a program that's a great fit for the city. I think there are some positives. There are some things that we need to look at. There's some items of concern. We've talked to other communities, and it's really a 50-50 viewpoint on whether this was a good program. There are communities that think this was the best thing for us. There are communities that have struggled and have worked to get out of the lease arrangement. Ultimately, what this comes down to is, as you look at the documents, and I can go into any depth with this that you want, but it ultimately becomes a financial decision because we currently buy our vehicles through borrowing, through debt issuance. That's, through our capital improvement plan. That's the majority of our vehicles are acquired. This would change that to an annual lease payment, which would be currently required of our operating budget. So as they've structured this would be a $210,000 annual payment from our operating budget to every 5 years replace these 18 vehicles. And they've given two demonstrations of they can do all 18 in 2025, or they can look at, I think they show like replacing 8 in 2025 and then systematically replacing. The greatest return on the investment is doing all 18, or at least in what they show, in 2025. But as you know, operating budgets are tight, and it's a discussion of, is this the best way of utilizing our operating budget, or do we want to continue to fund vehicles from our capital program? In a perfect world, we would have the staffing and capacity to run this program ourselves and not need Enterprise. That's the ultimate goal. but I don't know that we're there now. Also, Enterprise has shared that they are working with the legislature on removing a lease program like this from being counted against the levy limit. And so if they were able to enact that in some future legislative session, it obviously gives us some more flexibility to consider something like this. I'm happy to answer questions. Chief Weiner and specifically Lieutenant Ward have been side by side in these discussions with Enterprise, and I've heard the presentation. And again, at this point, I've shared this as an information item. It would clearly need to come up in budget decisions if we were to move forward with this. And that could include the police department. We could remove the police department and look at other fleets. There's concern about upfitting of vehicles. I think everyone knows that once we purchase a police car, there's a rather significant process that goes through with equipping that car to be put into service. So I think it's important that we look at these programs, look at these options, but I can't tell you today that this is the right thing or the wrong thing for the city to enter into. Happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I guess my first question is wondering how their contracts work on the vehicles that we spent tens of thousands of dollars on retrofitting, but perhaps the lease is up. Just, I have no idea for all the little details that could wind up being extra expenses if we have to do things again and again when the vehicle might still be quite useful.
So what I can share is, and I hesitate to bring up Middleton all the time, but we had a very aggressive replacement program for vehicles in Middleton. Most of them were being replaced on a 5-year cycle. And the benefit in doing that is you're selling them at a greater value than running them down to their deteriorated point. You're also theoretically saving on maintenance expenses by turning a vehicle over faster. And so that's what Enterprise is ultimately doing. By turning these vehicles over faster, they're making more money on the resale of them, and they're putting us in a newer vehicle. The uplift of, or the equipping of these vehicles is included into the lease structure, but that is one of the, as we've talked to other communities, there isn't a great consensus, and some of this is evolvement of a program, right? So if you talk to a community that got in on this at the front end, they may have had a different experience than someone who's done this more recently as Enterprise has figured this out. They did share that they work with, you are able to select, like we work with Belk to equip our police vehicles. They would allow us to keep that relationship with a negotiated price of that additional investment in the vehicle of equipping it. But it is one of the things that we have questions about in ensuring what the arrangement looks like, what the agreement says, those sort of things. But I think the ultimate is what they're doing for us is they're monetizing the resale of these vehicles and helping a city have this make financial sense for them.
For clarification, I'm assuming that Enterprise would be benefiting from the quicker resale of the vehicle while it's still in better shape, that wouldn't make a difference to the city because we would be renting and would not have purchased it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Daryl, they're working with about 50 communities in the state right now with similar programs. Does that number sound right from what he shared?
Alder Lawson?
So what you just explained Enterprise is doing, I thought was our long-term plan anyways, even with the purchases, to rotate vehicles through faster so we could benefit from the higher resale value.
It's a plan, as you may have seen. We have at least one vehicle that's approaching 22 years in service and rapidly getting close to 200,000 miles. So the challenge with implementing this on our own is what it competes with. And, you know, if there's a commitment that we're gonna put X amount of dollars into vehicle equipment replacement every year, then we can fund a program like this. But when we get up against, you know, the road project this year, it went from 1.5 to 2.3, and now we don't have enough money, we don't feel like comfortably borrowing enough money to invest in our vehicles, and now we take a step back. Whereas if we build an annual lease program into our operating budget, it's less of a chunk each year. Does that make sense? And again, there's no perfect way to answer. You brought up a great point, is this is what we want to do ourselves, but there are, without knowing the future financial forecast of what we can borrow for, there's no guarantee that we can meet that level of financial commitment each year.
So is this something that the police, fire departments, DPW want to explore further?
I think that's a mixed message at this point. There's more questions than answers. And again, there's been criticism, rightly or wrongly, that the city isn't transparent. And so here's kind of opening the door to show, you know, the everyday discussions and decisions that we have to go through. And I'm sure there's people in the public who look at this and go, well, that's foolish. Cities should manage it themselves. And there's people probably saying, well, that makes sense. Look at all the other cities that are doing it. And it's just one of these processes as we go through this budget process, as we go through putting a 5-year plan together, that we're taking a look at and exploring, and that we don't just throw a dart at the wall and decide this is the right thing and it's what we're going to do tomorrow.
Alder Moda?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you said this was going to cost about $210,000 a year?
That's what they've shown, at least in an initial sales pitch to the city.
So my questions that follow that, sorry, that was perfect timing. Shoot, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Now I'm a little,
Yeah.
yeah. In the past, we have not had room in the general budget for a payment like that. I want all of our departments have the best and to have a good turnover. But if we're concerned about not being able to purchase a vehicle, you know, in any given year that our capital budget is going to get axed or something, how are we going to ensure we can pay a payment like that each year?
That's a great question. It's one of the things that I've floated out to Ellers in looking at from a financial standpoint of, you know, does this make sense from their perspective? How does this fit with our long-range planning? And those are things that we'll anticipate discussing in a lot greater detail, on October 1st. And I think, you know, right now we're guessing on some of those things. The other thing that we've previously talked about is, you know, the police department would like to institute a take-home vehicle plan, and they have a way of funding that program. And, you know, does something like this play nicely with that, and what was planned, and how would we structure that? So there's a lot of variables, but again, I just wanted to kind of share this as, you know, this is another way of doing things. We've seen recently the utility has looked at lease structure for some of their new larger equipment, and it makes sense. The DPW has utilized a lease program on steroids, maybe the best way to describe it, with Mid-States Equipment, where we make an annual payment and receive a new Bobcat each year. And it's a great program that works extremely well for our Public Works division. And it's also a great thing for Mid-States, is that they're able to turn over vehicles and have slightly used vehicles able for resale, and so it makes sense for them too. And that's kind of that same, this is just looking at those kind of options on a bigger scale because they've worked well in those applications.
And have you been able to look at nuances like, so I've leased a vehicle in my lifetime, and I know there are clauses in, at least for residential people, clauses about mileage and stuff.
There is nothing like that. There are no mileage restrictions or wear and tear type restrictions. They know based on the work that they do with municipalities that an average municipal vehicle is going to travel between 5,500 and 6,500 miles a year.
Okay.
They just know that based on the volume of work they do in the state. So that you can see that they base their average annual mileage expectation is 5,600 miles based on our current vehicle use.
I would have a hard time supporting this as it's been presented. I know it can change, but I'm concerned about having this kind of commitment at that payment, and what would we have to give up? Because I certainly don't want it to affect the advances we've made in ensuring that our employees have what they need.
Alder Rosted?
What's the current rotation now for PD? What do you try to hit or try to get rid of at? What year mark?
We go by mileage, and with our staffing issues the last several years, cars are lasting a lot longer for us. When we're up to staff, we're down a third of our people, at a third of your mileage. That's a lot of mileage in a year, but typically we run them anywhere to 140 to 170,000, and it's based on how each car is. If it starts nickel and dime us, it's 140, it's gone. But if we can run it to 170, we have done that successfully in the last several years, I can keep it. So it's really, we don't really have a direct line to age from us, it's mostly mileage.
Okay. And then, you said 210, but is that based on the 18 that we have selected? Or is there a price break, I mean, with Enterprise or no?
So they've analyzed our fleet, and there are 18 vehicles that they think fit their program well. And so if we were to do all 18, so they have a 1-year flip in your packet and then a 5-year gradual. The 5-year gradual gets up to the 210,000 mile or $210,000 level, where year one of the full flip would be the $210,000 commitment. They're showing in a 10-year savings, we'd save just under $300,000 by going this route based on their math. The challenge is how you fund it, as several of you've pointed out, with the operating budget versus capital debt issuance. And so that number starts lower with fewer vehicles. If we reduce the number of vehicles that are considered, say that we take, there's 6 police vehicles factored into this? 5? So if we take those 5 police vehicles out because it's not a fit for police, you're down to 13. So that $210,000 number is going to lower because it's based on 18 vehicles going down to 13. I can't tell you what that adjusted number is. They're willing to work with us on whatever level of scale we want to do this for. Obviously, they're going to show our greatest savings based on, the more vehicles we include in the program. But they specifically excluded any CDL required vehicle and any of like the full size, like the F550 style vehicles that they haven't fit their program from a resale. The first thing I asked them about is, do you do this for ladder trucks? And they kind of laughed and said, we get that question a lot, but we haven't figured that program out just yet.
And then, what were some of the issues at the communities you talked to? Can you elaborate on what they disliked?
I think it's differences of when those communities started the program and maybe some things that have worked out and just maybe it wasn't a fit. I'd defer to Daryl, who spoke more directly to some of those communities and some of their police departments, if you want specifics. But I think it dealt with upfit of vehicles and maybe some things that were agreed upon being changed from what was originally pitched as a sales pitch.
Kosher?
So
some of the bigger problems that at least the PD ran into, and like Matt said, some of this is when they got started. During the whole COVID thing, you couldn't get a squad car, so then they were getting pitched to non-police rated vehicles. Some of the bigger municipalities, they would try to push smaller cars that don't work for a PD as administrative vehicles, and we're giving quotes on things that hadn't been discussed as options. But at least in the meeting that Matt and I attended, the rep for Enterprise claims that at the end of the day, we are the customer and they will find us whatever we need. Some of the PDs had issues with what type of, or a brand of vehicle it was. Beaver Dam, for example, they were trying to push I believe it was a Nissan. They don't have a Nissan dealership there, which means they'd have to drive to Madison for any warranty work. So little things like that were kind of the deciding factor of, maybe it would save a little bit, but it wasn't near as much as Enterprise's projections. So they opted out of the program.
Thank you.
Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. While I truly appreciate all the work that has gone into this and the creativity of looking truly out of the box, I can't support this. I can't support spending over $1 million over a 5-year period and a couple $100,000 on equipping said vehicles with specialty equipment. And at the end of 5 years, we own nothing. We don't own the vehicles. And now we have equipment from them that we may or may not need to remove, might not fit the new vehicle, we might have to repurchase. I just think this will likely be a bit of a financial mess.
Alder Lawson?
So the numbers that they give you are like their sales pitch numbers, right? So if they haven't factored into the police vehicles, putting on more than 5,500 a year or the take-home program, they could come back and say, well, it's really a different number now, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is very preliminary review. We haven't gotten into specifics on a lot of those questions at this point.
Okay.
Matt, just to clarify one thing, Trina's comment brought up a question for me. Did you not say that they are including the equipment, the up equipment in?
I'll defer to Daryl, who had some more specific discussions around that topic, and maybe he understood it better than I did.
So my understanding is they can include it in the lease cost. And that's one of the questions that actually came up this morning when I made another phone call, is it sounds like at least as of 2022, when one of the jurisdictions had looked at it, it was kind of a tiered program. So if you had up to 5,000 in equipment, you could lease all of it into the cost. 5 to 10, you had to pay a little bit, and then you could roll the rest in. And then 10 and above, you had more that you had to pay, but the rest could get rolled in. But like Matt had said earlier, they did say that we can get quotes and estimates from our local vendors. So we have an idea of what that would be, but as far as exactly how that would affect the lease payment, again, like Matt had said, those were all numbers that haven't been given yet. These are all very preliminary numbers based on estimates. So until we would actually be able to get exact numbers based on exactly what we need, it's kind of hard to say how that would fully affect the program.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions tonight? Alder Finkler?
The only question I have is, what's the intent? I know this is just informational tonight, so do we, according to our fund ordinance we still have, do we have to call out that we do not want this moved to council, that it will be discussed during budget, if it is going to be explored?
I don't think there's any specific action you need to take right now. I think you can just move on to your next topic if you wish. If you want it, if there was, I haven't heard a general consensus on anything so far. So, and if there was a general consensus, then you could move it forward to council for further discussion. But right now, because tonight was information only, I think that if there's more information that's going to come, Matt will be bringing it back to this body for further discussion.
Okay. But we don't have to say we don't want it to go to council?
No, I don't think you can do I don't think you have to do anything with it right now if you don't want to.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So then the next item for discussion is discussion and review of task order number 2404 with Rupert Milkie related to the UD Dam.
As previously warned, Wisconsin DNR has sent letters to, I'm assuming all communities, but we got one, in terms of concerns about recent flooding and how it's impacted dams in communities throughout the Midwest. We're being asked to complete a safety inspection, and knowing that there's likely going to be some other expectations placed on us by the DNR, Rupert Milkie has drafted this task order to do a study. I know there's a scary mention of potential removal of the dam. To me, that is an exploration of looking at all options and taking all of those factors into account as they study the work. It's not we're not moving in that direction, but it's something that'll be looked at as part of the analysis.
Does anybody have any questions? Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. No, not a question, but it's come up repeatedly for the past decade with council, whether or not we should possibly remove the dam. So this may bring us in a good direction just to get a better idea of whether we need to maintain or remove.
And to highlight that, I think it's worth noting that the DNR doesn't necessarily have funding programs for improving the dams, but they do have grant programs for removing the dams, if you're wondering what the DNR's stance on this is.
Any other questions, comments? Is everybody comfortable moving that forward for a vote? Okay, thank you. And then the last item is to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion from Alder Finkler, a second from Alder Rostat. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.